So we're going to continue with the studies into Parshat Noach. We're in the Breshit Chet, 8th chapter of Breshit, the 16th pasuk. It is in the section on Noach, page 60. Say, leave. Number 1. When Noach built the Or, this is with a tipcha. So tipcha is going to focus us backwards and have a short pause after it. So the word stands alone a little bit. When Noach built the ark, he did not dare to enter until he was ordered to do so by God, where he was commanded, Bo el teva, come to the teva. Now we've got say min teva. He behaved similarly at the end of the flood, not abandoning the ark, but waiting for heavenly advice to leave, say, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the related reading mark. So we have Bo with a mercha at the beginning of the story of the ark, telling him to come into it. And this is sort of the bracket closing the entire story. Wow. Say, go out. That's the last thing that's going to be done in the ark, is Noah is going to fulfill his allegiance to God by waiting for that final command before stepping out, even though he had made his evaluation that the land was fit and the land was ready and it was a way to, there was certainly a way to survive out there, and yet he waited for the command. So we bracket the beginning and the end of the ark story with this, and we've got the pause after that to tell us this is sort of the last thing that comes in the ark story. Min hateva, number 2, from the box. It was suggested to Noach to move out from the box after the flood was over due to his completed work and dedicated service, shleimus, his completeness. From the box, he was promoted to a level of a just tzaddik, God speaking to him directly, as indicated by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So again, the going out of the ark tells us of Noach's completion of a task. So we expect stability here, and that's why we're at Emet Machta. We're at a note that not only stabilizes, but perhaps points us a little bit up. And this tells us that Noach's status was elevated by his faithful completion of the task that he was given in the ark. Ata, that's a zakef gadol. So this is a line with 2 dots next to it. If it's a little bit unclear in the version that you've got in front of you. So this is a 3-part note. So we're going to expect multiple things to come out of this word. Just as the embarkation to the ark ended with you, evacuation from the ark shall begin with you as well, as shown by the shape of the reading mark. So Zakef Gadol is a melech, is a note that stops you and focuses you on that word so that it sort of stands alone. And Noah's status as being in charge of the entire operation is focused on by having a note that has those characteristics to it. And yet, everything under Noah's command is going to go at his word. I know that the doctor doesn't mention this, but we have this tripartite note. We have this 3-part note to tell us that this is Noach, the other people, and the animals. So we've got 3 parts here because there are 3 categories, and yet they're all going at Noach's behest. They're all going with him standing alone as the one in charge. So he gets the singularity of a note that stands by itself, and yet it implies the status of all 3 groups: him, the rest of humanity, and the rest of all animal life. So I'm adding a little bit to the text, but I think it is relevant and consistent with the meaning of the note. Ve'ishtecha, and this is a tavir. So this is a note that's going to have some form of sheltering involved in it. This is the mercha, the rounded note, with the dot being sheltered, being cupped by that mercha. You will get out of the ark, and your wife shall join and follow you, taking along her necessities as stressed by the shape of the reading mark. So I'm not sure what taking along her necessities is relevant here. Basically, certainly a man and his wife is a sense of completion, is a sense of fulfillment, and there is that sheltering aspect there, both in terms of how Noach is going to look after his wife, and also how she is going to look after him. So there's a mutual sheltering connotation to the idea of a wife. Taking along her necessities, again, those are the things that gave her a spot of comfort and shelter within the ark. So she maintained those. I'm not sure where this derived from. I couldn't find a midrash or another story that defines what necessities she brought with her into the ark or out of the ark. Uvanecha, mercha. So this is a note that's going to look forward from here and go into the next area after it. It's not completely separated from what was before, but it focuses mainly on what's going to go afterwards. Number 5, and your sons, after you, your wife, and your sons shall follow in the process of departing from the ark, as denoted by the directional shape of the reading mark. So this is going to include everything that was before, but mostly sweep you forward into the other elements who are coming out of the ark. Unashevanecha, this is a tipcha. So this is something that's going to look backwards, and quite obviously we can infer that the wives of the sons are going to complete the sons, and by the way, they're going to complete all of the humanity who's going out of the ark. So certainly we would expect a closing and pausing after that, and Tipcha perfectly fulfills that. There shall be a reunion of families, and wives of your sons shall join their husbands, as suggested by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. Certainly the Midrash tells us, and we have in the note here, at the time of entrance to the ark, the men were separated from the women, but on leaving they were reunited. Ata ve'ishtecha, you and your wife, uvanecha u'neshevanecha. And so we see that the joining between vanecha and shevanecha with a mercha and tipcha, that means that they were joined together. And let's just go back momentarily to 7:13.
Page 31. That's right there.
Page 31.
Brilliant. Right column. Shows the men separate, the women separate.
So we see that the sons come out in the first part of the pasuk. That Noach and his sons came into the ark with an etnafta. Sort of a hard pause there. V'eshet Noach and his wife Ushloshet Neshebanav Itam Alatzeva. In the second set of the sentence, separated out from the men, we have the women. So we see that separation was enforced in the ark, and we see how the notes tell us that it was enforced, and where the Midrash obviously got that concept from. And when they come out, uvanecha u'neshevanecha, that they're joined together again, that the phrase joins them together, and therefore physically they were able to join together again. And shall leave simultaneously with you, not in separate groups or at a different interval. Itach, the last word, which tells us that despite the fact that each one has a different role that they're fulfilling and a different thing that they are accomplishing as they come out, that all of them are in fact coming out together with a unified purpose. So the stabilizing factor of them coming out is that they're coming out with the unified purpose that Noach is setting for them, itach, with you. And we'll sing the pasuk out loud. Say, min hateva ata ve'ishtecha uvanecha u'neshevanecha itach. Again, just when I sing at the end, notice that I'm overemphasizing the pauses that are in between, so that you can see the way that it's being phrased. So listen again, because remember we said that say, the going out, is completing the idea of going in, and therefore it stands alone. And Noach Ata is going to stand alone, and his wife is going to be sort of a little tied to him, but sheltered from everything else. And then the men and the women, they're going to be tied together, and then it's going to pause after that, and Noach is going to be the unifying idea. So listen to the pauses again. Say, min hateva ata ve'ishtecha uvanecha u'neshevanecha itach. So when you overemphasize the pauses, you actually see that there is extra meaning that's hidden in here, and the parish really brings it out in a lovely fashion. Pasuk 17, Yud Zayin, Kol HaChaya, each of the animal. Since custody over the species was left to Noach, each of the animals should be accounted for together with its mate of the pair, because of the equal importance for reproduction, as indicated by the shape of the reading mark. So this is a kadma ve'azla. These are two notes that join together. The first one emphasizes and leads into the second one. What we are noting from this is, before we talked about male and female, especially with the men and the women, but here we're talking each animal, so that we're emphasizing the equal importance of each member of a pair to be able to repopulate its species. Asher itcha, this is the azla, so this is again a powerful emphasis of this phrase, and telling you that it's completing the first phrase that came before, and there'll be a pause after this. That with you. Number 2, just as you cared for the safety of the species while they were in the ark, so was your duty extended until the end. You shall watch that with you they shall depart, and no bodily harm or damage shall result in that final stage of the rescue campaign, as shown by the corresponding closing shape of the directional reading mark. So here we add an element that, again, we don't see in any other parish or in any other commentary that I can find, that Noach is tasked not only to bring the animals out, but to make sure that they don't trample each other as they're coming out. And certainly all elements of the ark are miraculous and not according to the nature of animals. And we see that is extended to them going out as well. You've got to figure that an animal that's cooped up, the moment that you open the door and he sees he's been there for a year, he's going to run as fast as he can to get some elbow room. And yet this tells us that the completion of this phrase has the miraculousness of the ark still imbued into this part of the story as well. Mikola Basar with a Rivi'i. This is a standalone note that again draws attention to the word and pauses you there. From all flesh, number 3. Those that you have chose from all flesh shall return to their natural environment, to which they were adapted since their creation, as stressed by the broad meaning of the reading mark. So each one is going to take on its own habitat again. It's going to be something that is in its own domain, standing alone, the king of its little niche. And this note again tells you that this is ownership, this is property, this is you having dominion over your little space. So Kol Basar has their own little space that stands alone for themselves, their own ecological niche, if you will. Ba'of with a darga. So this is going to scoop us forward into what's going to go afterwards. This standard shall be adapted by the bird of each specification, to choose the suitable condition that will enjoy most, as denoted by the shape of the reading mark. So birds occupy space vertically, and Dargah is telling us things that have perhaps an up and down component to them. So the best way to designate where birds are going to be would be with Dargah, with something that tells us that there's height, there's depth.
Brilliant.
Uva v'hema, and by the cattle. Cattle, by their before I even look at the commentary with you, cattle by their nature are a domestic animal. So when we're talking about domestic animals, they would need to be sheltered a little bit. They would need to be cared for. So we see it's here. And let's see what the proper placement and facilities shall be considered for other species, and by the cattle to suit their requirements, as suggested by the shape of the reading mark. Again, when you get to a domestic animal, it needs a place that is more sheltered. Uvechol haremes. Again, here we see another tavir. So this is something that crawls on the ground, and by each of the creeper.
Is that what remes is? Creep?
So remes means to creep, means to crawl. So a remes is something that crawls, a crawler, a creeper.
I know people with that name.
If the person's name is remes, it might be more from remez, which means hint or secret, rather than remes.
You're right, we just say remes, but I think it's remes. Yeah. And that means what, hint?
Your final care shall be extended to be enjoyed by others, and by each of the creeper who may require your intervention for settling in order to survive. So what he's saying is that animals that really couldn't get very far and yet had to be put into the right place, Noah was tasked with making sure they got into the right place, so they needed his sheltering and his help. So if they needed his sheltering and his help, of course they deserve a tavir to be underneath, which tells us that they needed that extra intervention. They needed Noah to do something more rather than expecting the worm to crawl to where it was supposed to go. So we see here perhaps a hint that Noah was tasked with an awful lot of stuff to do after the animals came out, rather than just opening the barn door and letting them run away.
Personally, I would have just thrown the mosquitoes overboard.
Yeah.
Haromes, that creeps, with a mercha, number 7. Because of slow mobility, a species that creeps has only a limited choice in finding conditions for its needs, as specified by the directional shape of the reading mark. So, where we have something that is going to continue from here to the next phrase, it is a remes, it is something, it relates slightly back to what it is, that Noah had to give it a little more care, but it's going to eventually find its own path. Al ha'aretz, with a tipcha. This is going to complete the phrase and pause afterwards. Consequently, you must choose suitable locations over the earth to accommodate particular kinds with regard to their needs, as illustrated by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. Again, here's this huge responsibility that Noah ends up having to do. He's got to take that scorpion that lives in the desert to the nearest desert. So this is again something that really no other midrash addresses, no other commentator addresses. But you're there in the middle of the mountains, right? You're at the foothills of Mareh Yaakov, and you've got tropical creatures there. How are you going to make it back without starving on the way? You've got your koalas that only eat eucalyptus, and you're in the middle of you're in the middle of nowhere. How are you going to manage to get there? So we see that Noach is tasked with an awful lot of stuff after the flood.
That's why he lived so long afterwards. He still didn't have a day off. Yeah.
So here we get, we're at number 9, Haitse. So this is one of those words that has something called a ktiv and a kri. A way that it is written and a way that it is read out loud. So it is written, Hey, Vav, Sadi, Aleph. Hotse, that you are supposed to take it out. And it is pronounced, Haitse. They should be coming out with you. So they're coming out on their own power, and they come out with you. Versus Hotse, you have to pick them up and take them out. So we're going to see that quite obviously there's something going on, and that both meanings have validity. Those which might be decrepit, with lack of vitality to overcome the difficulties in departing from the ark, make leave by your assistance and auspices, help in finding them a choice location as conveyed by the shape of the reading mark. And he wants you to compare with Rashi, and Rashi tells you that those ones who want to go out willingly, let him go out willingly. And those ones that are stubborn and want to stay, you got to forcibly kick them out of the ark. So he says Hotse and Haitse. Rashi says both of those. He's saying no. This has a single note, so it's going to have a meaning that is accorded to it by its note, not by its ktiv and kri. So this is a munach which says that you're going to separate from what was before, and you're going to move to what goes after. So the nature of the animal from before, when it was in the ark, is going to be different from the animal returning to its previous nature when it was in the wild. So the animal is now going to go from its passive state that it was in before, and you are going to return it to the way that it was before. So you are going to have to make it leave, because some of them will want to have stayed in this idyllic situation. Food was easy and no predators were eating them, and that might have been something.
Natural.
So all of them want to go out of don't want to go out of this sheltered condition. Where God through His instrument Noah is looking after their safety, their needs, their nature. So all of them need to be forced.
Adolescence.
Well, I see it more like when they came into the ark, sort of like a spell was put on them, because the lions and the predators have to be tamed, almost like you're being given an anesthetic. And at the end of it, you sort of have to be smacked around to come out of it and back to your regular status, spacious state.
Just say the slap at birth, right? With you, itach. So the stabilizing factor here is going to be that they are coming out with Noach. So of course this gets in at nachta, stabilizing and perhaps looking a little bit up. They should not abandon the ark by their own volition in order to establish a domicile, but should first agree with you and rely on your judgment as demonstrated by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So here we see that Noach is tasked with making sure that the animals make right choices when they come out of the ark. So he's going to do the Dr. Doolittle thing. He's going to talk to all of the animals, and he's going to say, you go there, and they're going to confer with him, and until they've agreed with his point of view, he's going to keep them until they agree.
Maxie, you sure you want to go to the desert? The Miami Beach is nice. It's got an ocean, it's got trees.
Vishartsu, and they shall swarm. So, and again, we're talking about things separating themselves out from their previous nature and moving on to a new nature. So of course we have a munach here. We have something that is going to separate out from before and move to what goes on, and finding suitable conditions, and they shall swarm again as they were designed at creation, as depicted by the shape of the reading mark. So this docile nature that they had in the ark is going to end, and then they're going to do what they naturally did before. So they're going to return to a different state. Va'aretz, on the land. This is a katon, so this is going to be something that's going to have more than one idea or concept imbued into it. By that, they will fill with living spaces on the land and accomplish their foreseen activities as signified by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So number one, the katon is going to complete and they will swarm, so it's going to complete the shartzu, but also they are going to use the land for a purpose that is suited to them. So the land is going to match the animals, and the features of the animals are going to match the land, and the features of the land are going to adapt to the animals that live on it. So we see this sort of symbiosis in the fact that we've got this two-part note there. The land's going to rely, the land's going to change because of the animals, and the animals are going to change because of the land. Or they're going to fulfill each other, if you will. Elements of one is going to fold into elements of the other. Ufaru, and this is with a mercha, so this is going to be lightly related to what's gone before, but mostly pushes forward into what's going to go afterwards. And they shall be fruitful, number 13, by exercising their functions, and they shall be fruitful, adding a beneficial contribution to various areas of life, as emphasized by the directional shape of the reading mark. So the question is, what's the difference between kriya, being fruitful, and revia, multiplying, having lots of it? What does fruitful mean, really, when it's separated out from multiplying? Because don't forget, we're taking each word here with its own note, and we're saying that it has its own existence. It's telling a different story. So it's not pru or vu as a single phrase, because there's more than one note. So the being fruitful has to do with completing the task that you were assigned to do. So yes, being successful in what you're designed for, which is separate from having lots of you. Mm-hmm. So each of you attains what you're supposed to attain, and by the way, there's going to be lots of you. So we see that we're separating out the being fruitful from the multiplying, because the notes separate out the two ideas. So being fruitful, adding a beneficial contribution to the area of life. Right? So being something that's useful to the spot where you're supposed to be useful. Viravu, number 14, and they shall multiply. So this is a tipcha, so this is going to come with the previous idea. Once you're being fruitful, you're doing something good in that area, then of course it'd be good if there were lots of you, because if you're doing good, then 2 of you can do better, and 3 of you can do even better, and so on. And those two things are going to complete each other because we have the mercha and the tipcha, and then we're going to have a slight pause after that. Their effectiveness will eventually be appreciated and noticed, and they will multiply in great proportions, as portrayed by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So, by separating out their being able to complete an environment with there being lots of them and even doing more, that really tells us the story of what pru means. And I don't think we would have gotten that from any other interpretation, because we wouldn't have stopped at pru. Because every time we read together mercha tipcha, pru or vu, the two go together. Why are we separating them out? So I think it's very important that we realize that the context of this Perush in separating out each word group that goes with a note is teaching us something that we wouldn't have paused and thought about unless we were doing it this way.
Very cool.
Al haaretz, over the earth. And again, that's not something that he comments on here, but I think I'm marveling at the way the analysis draws you to do that. So I want to be sure that you're getting that there is something here that nobody else who studies Torah is going to get.
Could we go back a second to the true or group part? Fruitful and multiply, because that's mentioned other places, but would that not always be the same thing?
Yes.